I'm going to be totally honest with you. I don't think we learned anything new from that 1-1 draw against Fenerbahce. It was a bit of a continuation of the disappointment that has been this season. Now, a point away at Fenerbahce in isolation, it's a good result. A point away at Porto in isolation is a good result. But you can't take Manchester United's games in isolation anymore. Not in the third season. I think that would be disingenuous of me to do that. I want to run through in this video just something Erik Ten Hag said after the game that's made me sort of tilt my head and just, I'll be honest, it's kind of confused me. All right, I'll run through it now. And as I said, look, Ten Hag said after the game that a point is a good result. Scholes said the same thing. And I agree with both of them. But that's also now a year that Manchester United have gone without winning a game in Europe. That's now 1 win out of our last 7. I'm going to take particular focus on each of those 7 games in a few minutes' time, and I'll explain that part. But it was the Mazraoui decision that raised the eyebrows yesterday, understandably so. Mazraoui, who, let's be honest, has never played in the number 10 role in his professional life. I think Erik Ten Hag said that he was a number 10 when he came in and he turned him into a fullback. But no, Mazraoui's not number 10, all right? And I said before the game, it's these sorts of decisions, like it was against Weghorst against Barcelona in the number 10. No one thought that was going to work, and it worked. These sorts of decisions that sometimes managers do, and it surprises you in the right way. You go, well, fair play, I didn't see that coming. But it didn't work against Fenerbahce. It was exactly how we thought it would be. And after the game, Erik Ten Hag said this. He said, away from home in Europe, with a hectic ambience atmosphere, to start with 4 attackers is too much. And it just made me go, huh? You really say that? Because it's just such... It's obviously not the reason why he played Mazraoui there. Because had Bruno Fernandes been fit, Bruno Fernandes would have started. And we would have started with 4 attackers. And you just have to look at the last 3 games United had away from home in Europe. Porto, a couple of weeks ago. Bruno was there. Rashford, Ahmad and Højlund, 4 attackers. Game before that, Copenhagen. Bruno, Garnacho, Rashford, Højlund, 4 attackers. Game before that, Bayern away. Pellistri, Bruno, Fernandes. No, sorry. Pellistri, Bruno, Rashford and Højlund, 4 attackers. The reason that Erik Ten Hag decided to play Mazraoui there was because he didn't trust Xerxes there. It was because he didn't trust Ahmad there. Not because we couldn't play 4 attackers. And I think at a time when United fans are struggling to really look at this United team with any sort of massive positivity, not from a game-by-game basis. And I think that's how Erik Ten Hag is approaching it. The reason he started Mazraoui there is because he trusted him to do more in a game where he wanted to make sure United didn't lose, rather than trusting Xerxes there and rather than trusting Ahmad. And with Ahmad, after the game, Erik Ten Hag said Anthony's been training better, but I don't really think there's going to be a United fan in the world. Like, I'm sure there are some, but that would have put Ahmad ahead of Anthony. I understood the fact that Garnacho and Rashford started, but Ahmad not coming on ahead of Anthony was a really strange one, given that he won Player of the Month in, was it August, September? And even looked good in a little bit we came on. But that's what confused me the most, I'll be totally honest, is Ten Hag just saying, it's because you can't play 4 attackers away from home in Europe, when you've literally done that in the last 3 games. It was a strange thing for him to do, I'll be totally honest. And this is where I'm currently at. I was thinking about this quite a lot. A few days ago, I released this video saying, look, the opportunity to fix Ten Hag's biggest Man United problem. And for me, that is consistency of performance. From a game-by-game, nudging further upwards, 5%, 5%, 5%. You're not going to go from awful to Premier League title winners overnight, are you? But consistently heading in the right direction. And if you look at these last 7 games, and I'll run through them now, just the swings in approaches, not just the swings in 11, but how we approach these games. Crystal Palace. First half, we set up in the most structured system I've seen in a long time. 3 at the back, 2. Delo was inverting. We built chances through patterns. Xerxes through to Garnacho. Garnacho hitting the bar. Bruno having a couple of chances as well. But then in the second half, we switched off. Palace came back into the game, and we couldn't sustain that for a 90-minute period. The following game against Twente, Man United were outplayed by Twente at Old Trafford. At home, No hectic ambience, no anything. It's United against Twente at Old Trafford. And that was a game where after Eriksen said they outworked us. Poor performance. Really slow tempo. And after that, we had the humiliation against Spurs, where after 3 minutes, after Brennan Johnson scored, their heads were gone. Bruno's red card, which shouldn't have been a red card, but the second half, we were never in the game from the 3rd minute. That was a humiliation at Old Trafford. What followed was a roller coaster away at Porto. 2-0 up away from home. Brilliant start. Can he control it? No. They got 2 back. Then they scored the 3rd, and it took until the 91st minute for Maguire to get an equaliser from the corner. Chaos. The chaos of Europe. Followed up by a game in which Manchester United put the brakes on. Put the sandbags out. Evans man of the match. Sat real deep. No real attacking threat, but we kept a clean sheet. That was a game in which we could not lose. And the floods were stopped. And then we followed that up after the international break with Brentford. And the first half was a similar sort of tempo to what we played against Twente. And it was easy. And then we got the I don't think it was misjustice. De Ligt should have gone off. He should have been wrapped up. They scored before half-time. Second half, they came out with a bee in the bonnet because of that. And then we played probably the best half we played at Old Trafford in a long-ass time. Because it looked like United, because we squeezed the team. We played with pressure and tempo. And then we followed that up with that game against Fenerbahce, where we gave Jose Mourinho's team 65% of the possession. This is the Jose Mourinho team. Now, in the first half, I said it feels like there was a little bit less chaos. I actually said that it felt like United had a lot of possession. That must have been in the last 10 minutes of the game or so. Well, 10 minutes and a half anyway. But it's the chopping and changing of game by... That's the way it feels like Ten Hag is managing Manchester United right now. And maybe that's the way he feels he has to manage Manchester United right now, on a game-by-game basis, doing what you need to do to get through that game, just through to the next game. And by doing so, it makes it difficult for you to build any sort of consistency. And maybe that is exactly why we've been unable to do that. Because we go from performances like the second half against Brentford to performances like Villa to chaos and roller coasters to this style to that and then to this defensive style. But then you don't know who's going to turn up. You don't know what's going to turn up. You don't know how United are going to approach a game in the first half and the second half. And that must be the core of it. And Ineos will be looking at Manchester United with a long-term vision. And right now, to me anyway, it feels like Erik Ten Hag as a manager is doing the opposite. And is focusing just on the short term of now. And by doing so, he's kind of willing to push any sort of concept of any principles or style just to work on a game-by-game basis. And I don't think that's going to be enough. That's where I'm currently at with United. All right, I've tried to explain in this video. You might disagree, but please do let me know what you think in the comments below. And West Ham are not in a good place right now. They'll probably turn out like Barcelona on Sunday, though.